I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Republic of Kenya and to the President as the Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defence Forces.
I am deeply saddened to announce the passing on of General Francis Omondi Ogola.
We are sad but thankful to God for the years He allowed you to be with us and for the many precious moments we shared.
We cannot have 29 schools closed, where children wake up in the morning and cannot go to school, and not much or not enough has been done. If these kids don't go to school for a year or 2 or 3, you're also preparing them to be bandits tomorrow.
The Chief of Defence Forces and his entourage departed from Kainuk to Chesegon in West Pokot County, where he launched the rehabilitation of Cheptulel Boys High School. He then departed Chesegon for the Recruits Training School in Uasin Gishu County, where he was scheduled to inspect construction facilities at the institution.
All right, that's quite a somber soapbox today, having followed the late June Moi's burial ceremony yesterday as well. Just hours later, the demise of General Fred Ogola, of course, Ogola and the other officers was also, of course, another tragic moment. But the interesting thing, panelists, is the late June Moi, Dr. June Moi, died at the age of 60. Right, the general was born 1962, so of course that's in the 60s as well. So it's quite a very interesting wave in terms of our senior citizens, but just celebrating the lives. And when we're talking about the youthful conversation, someone has said, it's been a cliche, that when you're gone, how will you be remembered? You know, we're talking about June, the late June did this. She was charismatic. She was a great businesswoman. We are celebrating the general as well, but they have walked that path. What path are the youth walking? I mean, that's been a question at this point in time.
The fallen gallant soldier, CDF Ogola,
yes,
was born at the birth of a nation. And he's been there through the times of transition and challenges in the military. He's been there when we have had democratic change in this country. And he has been there to serve a nation that he loved so much. When we celebrate the lives of such gallant people, it shows us that we have got a galaxy and a granary of example from which to learn. Now, when you look at the footprints of history, we remember Pablo Picasso for his paintings, we remember Beethoven for his compositions, we remember Martin Luther King Jr. for his soaring oratory. We will remember the gallant Ogola and the 9 fallen soldiers for their constant giving, constant sacrifice to serve this country. As we're seated around this table this morning, far too many children of this nation have continued to check out and work out various prairies and desert spaces, keeping a watch our airspace to make sure that we're safe. As we're speaking right now, we know of what is going on across the Middle East. Mm-hmm. And just the dawn of this morning, we've seen what Israel has done to Tehran. All these things tell us that when a nation has got military men and women, those are very rare gems a nation can have that stand up for it. When you mention a lady such as June Moi, we remember somebody who's been there, worked for her family, and worked for the country as well. Celebrated patriots. These things, as for me as I sit here, and even somebody like Maliba here, who is nearing the ancestry period, he's a threatening ancestor, we learn so much from such kind of people who have gone ahead of us. And one thing, as you ask, what is it that the youth can learn? They can learn patriotism, can learn sacrifice, can learn the place of accountability and truthfulness. They need to learn to be there for the country.
right.
They need to be patriots.
And looking back at, the late general's journey, at his 20s, he was already outstanding. He was already, moving with, what he believed he wanted to do. I remember Okango speaking about, could you please find your purpose, as even in politics, and not just, and of course, Malibaya saying throwing stones is not really participation in politics, because the youth are streaming live right now on YouTube, and this is the best they can say. They will move with the tide, where the tide is stronger.
I think it's good that you're saying that, because I saw a clip on social media last night of General Francis Ogola in his early 20s, when he was undergoing training in the Air Force with the US military. And you could see actually what he believed in. You could see his interaction with those young people together in the military school, Kenya Air in the Air Force, and it's something very admirable. And if there's something that young people should learn from General Ogola, is dedication, motivation, the passion, and resilience to serve his country. And if we are to go by that, then I think the young people of this country, and not even just young people, even the older people, we must have something that we believe in. Look at how he grew ranks from a junior officer to the time he was dying, he was the CDF. So it means that with dedication, passion, and motivation, you can actually achieve what you want, whether it is in politics, whether it is in the legal field, whether it is in whichever field you decide to pursue. That is an encouragement to young people. I was there at Kabarak yesterday when we were burying the late June Moi. And if you listened to her colleagues when they were in high school, she was a hockey player. I was a captain of hockey. When you listen to those she was within school, university, they talked very good of her. It means that there was something that people see in her, and they saw it, they grew with it, they admired it until the time she died, and people have got something to say. Today we are speaking very good about the general because he believed in something. We are talking very good about June. She believed in something. Even as we are living today, it's only that our time has not come. But what will people say about us when we leave? What will people do for us when we leave? So it is an encouragement to all of us. As much as we mourn, we also celebrate them because of what they have done for this country in their own personal lives and their communities.
All right, and I want to be honest about, being youthful in this country. And speaking of, every regime that comes in, at least let's speak about the administrations that have come in, have wanted to associate with the youth, saying, well, we are the digital, or we are going to be dealing with the hustlers, most of the majority being the youth. The youth at some point, at least for the ones that we talk to during our Vox Pops and, sport checks, would say they are betrayed. To this point in time, someone would say, what is the responsibility of the youth to the point that they should take some sort of responsibility in having, quote unquote, been betrayed by whichever regime and administrations in and out?
And I pick that from the conversation that we've been having and what we've seen on Soapbox. And for me, one of the things that stands out, both in the late June's scenario and in the case of our gallant heroes that have fallen, is the issue of service. So that, Maliba said we are not young, very young here. And I know he will recall when we used to recite the loyalty pledge. And one of the things we'll say is our readiness and duty to defend the flag of our republic. Right. And so for me, I think even as we encourage youth to take up positions, it's also a question of the readiness and willingness to serve. It is for that reason that our soldiers have fallen. They were going there to perform a duty. I mean, we saw the president previously giving an undertaking that these people will come to make sure that transitions in terms of schools happen, that the banditry will not stop education and things such as that. And sorry to interject, just to give it more of a specific feel to it, it was to monitor the Maliza Uhalifu operation. Yes. And that in itself is very heavy. It is indeed. So they have fallen in service to the country. And so that then even as and this is not just for the youth, the cabinet secretaries, the PSs, advisors, anybody who is occupying, lecturers, politicians, I think we need to remind ourselves, even as we deal with issues of health, issues of education, at the bare minimum, let us do whatever we are doing in service to our country. People can hate you, they can say negative things, but where the underpinning basis of your decisions is service to the country, then in the fullness of time, that is the legacy you will be able to leave. And so then to urge our leaders, let's pick that aspect of service. Let's go back to these conversations about NHIF. Or during the break, we were discussing, and I asked Maliba, what's the issue with NHIF? Because why are we seeing it not being implemented? We appreciate that Kenya Kwanza government is trying to transition, but you have a pregnant woman whose baby, and that is to borrow the example that is given by Honorable Gathoni Wamuchomba, who is about to deliver today. Do you tell them, wait until we do the full transitioning, and then we will, let us do every decision we make. Can we make it in service to the country? Today, banditry is ongoing. We send our National Police Service there, isn't it? When they go there and they are attacked, we know our police officers are earning less than 50,000. Some of them, when you look at their pay slip, after deductions, they have
some of them.
No. They are paid. Our National Police Service, oh my goodness, they are paid poorly. And then you find that even when they are sent to different places, the accommodation, they live in Mabati homes. So that even when you're talking about affordable housing, can we first consider housing them in a manner that is decent? Because we are sending them on national duty. So let us make service something that all of us aspire to do. We grew up wanting to serve this country. We were in Brownies, we were Rangers. Why? Because we are doing it Girl Guides. Right. It was so that we can serve the country. But the manner in which even our politics is going, people who are not interested in service are the ones we are rewarding with hefty salaries, hefty things. We have a military, at least we have medical institutions and all that. But if it was a member of the National Police Service, for instance, if they had been attacked, they will still rely to use NHIF. They will rely on NHIF, having been attacked by bandits in service to the country. And then they go to that hospital and they cannot be served because NHIF is transitioning. I mean, honestly, what is that? Who are we seeking to serve?
There's something Wakili has said, and I want us to bring it to the table, that in Kenya we have a culture of rewarding those who, I think, you would call it, quote unquote, have bad manners, either in terms of corruption, they have questionable character, integrity issues, at least in terms of them being alleged questionable character. Is it, I don't know if Maliba would agree or disagree, that there is a culture of rewarding these people rather than holding them to account or apprehending them if the law so dictates?
First of all, just allow me to actually pass my belated condolences to the Moi family, especially for the loss of their sister June, having left at the plump age of 60. I know that death is, of course, beautiful. In death, of course, you forget time. There is no tomorrow. There is no yesterday. And that you start listening to silence, and the noises like what we are making here never really bothers those in the grave. But life is more beautiful, because in life is where we make it count, is where we make it, that's where we make the call. So be that as it is, I think her life should be celebrated. While growing up, we heard of her name. She's been out there, not gotten her into anything bad. There was no mention into these funny things that actually come with children who actually grow up in such like settings. So I think for me, we should celebrate her life. And she actually came up to a very good age. 60 is quite an age, though that is young, relatively. But I really think that she's worth actually looking into. But quickly speaking into how we have got a reward scheme. We have got a professional agency, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, that looks into how we reward public officers, about 1 million of them. I think they are not, about 1 point something million of them. Let's get here. A little bit when it comes to discussing how we do remuneration, we get reactionary, a little bit over the edge, because there's this conflating, especially for those of us who had the advantage of going to school, to actually think that competence is a function of schooling alone. The people of Kenya went to an election in 2010 to give themselves a constitution. If they wanted professors to become their MCAs, their MPs and everything else, they would have voted for that. So the pathway to how people get themselves in spaces of responsibility are varied and different. So when we're looking at people, for example, and I've seen this, we have got a 4 trillion budget. If you are to compare with the 38 billion shillings that Parliament gets, with the function Parliament plays, if you were to even do away with that 38 billion or 39 billion shillings and spread it elsewhere, you will realize that it's not as much as it's. So if you do not look at the numbers in their absoluteness, sometimes you lose the bigger picture. Again, a nation, a republic, whether you want to call it a country, is not a function of one part, where that you are going to judge Kenya simply by the way it pays doctors, or you're going to judge Kenya simply by the way it pays teachers, or how it treats politicians. Somehow, the level of the decisions and the places there. I want to give you just a little bit of an example. I still have got an issue with the way we pay MCS. And we can argue, most of these guys here in policy, there are some unintended consequences in a policy decision. Like the policy that we've actually embraced when it comes to paying MCS. You know, see how county assemblies and the role of oversight has actually collapsed in counties. You can actually directly pin it, primarily, not just on competence, because today in counties, you find a lot of learned young people.
You said collapsed. You said that the
oversight function in counties has literally collapsed. You know why? When you are paying an MCA a basic salary of about, I think, 89,000 shillings, and even if they had so much allowances, they wouldn't do beyond 150,000 shillings. They are oversighting a governor who has got billions, that is actually in control of billions. What are they doing? They are playing around with these people. And in places where the governor does not play ball, then MCAs come up with funny tricks of ensuring that there is no service delivery. They put the executive in counties continuously in problems so that then they can find a ways where we talk about when you shake the tree, some fruits can actually come off. So the issue of how we pay, I think that even the wage bill conference that was at Bomas, I don't think that it touched on real issues as it were. We are here ambitious, talking about 35% being the minimum of what we want. Right. Talking about freezing employment, yet we know that people die every day. There's mobility in labor and so much around that. So I want us, when we discuss the issue, especially on how we remunerate our people, to also try and balance out. It's a mix of very many things, and we cannot use one mirror to reflect everything.
I agree with that. But let us start from the standpoint that when you pay bananas, the only thing you get are monkeys. If you pay so little to a certain cadre of professionals, you will get the list of characters and qualified. Let us, first of all, celebrate and appreciate merit, worth of office, distinction. Those are things that should matter, especially in public service. And beyond that, for instance, when we have a problem on issues of accountability, touching on the issue of the wage bill national conference that was held at Bomas, we need to be actually very intentional about the issues of accountability via Article 10 of the Constitution, sub-Article 2. The thing is this: if the auditor raises critical questions, and we need to have this in law and policy, that a county government has got critical audit queries and qualified opinion from the Office of the Auditor General, such county should actually be flagged. And in fact, while it is legal that they need to get their shareable revenue annually, we need to have these counties have that held back until they are actually accountable, until they are gravitating towards meeting the objects of devolution and the principles of devolved governance as enshrined and sheltered by the Constitution of Kenya. The other thing is this: I have been a lecturer.
All right.
I have served in various capacities within the public and private. But I'll tell you this, the place of motivation is also very important. Do you know that for a very long time, in this country, in the past, lecturers used to earn much more than members of parliament? Way back. The moment we started paying politicians much more than lecturers, well-educated and exposed persons, what kind of persons did we start attracting? Today, you find former criminals, fellows who have got the cloud of legal matters hanging upon their heads, even in the current parliament, holding public office. We are paying them millions upon millions per year. Now look at this. In our universities, let me tell you one thing. Let us pay lecturers much more, and our teachers. Demand the best of them.
What are they doing in office?
Lecturers should lobby for
what are they doing in office?
Politicians. And it's unfortunate that
that
Monica is talking about lobbying, because lobbying means that we go on strike to some extent. So, they're different. No, but you see, the reason also why, and that is why, and in addition to what my brother Javas has said, in addition to merit, let us also reward selfless service. Selfless service. These people, no. But Maliba, this is our country.
I'm going to inform. Just allow me, just a point.
Please,
kindly.
Give me 2 minutes.
Just allow me to.
All right,
2 minutes.
I'm helping her point, by the way.
No, I know
kindly
you are my friend.
So
let me finish it so that you can
Malim, just allow me to actually just inform your point shortly. Some of the people who are doing selfless service in this country are politicians. They wake up in the morning and they have got queues in their places. They go to places where some of these people are not there. These two are lecturers, and I'll tell you this. Can I tell you this, Anki? As a country, we have got about 2.8 million degrees. Some of them are owned by, like he has got 3, she has got 3. So even as we talk about that,
Maliba, I
let
gave
us
you a
note.
chance. So allow me, Maliba, now. I gave you a chance.
Given a chance to
I'm just saying that when we talk about selflessness,
and I'm
politicians do that.
I'm empowering your point as well. Why we are finding ourselves, Maliba, with people queuing outside the politicians' homes is because we have not empowered our citizens. They are there to ask for money, for support, so that they can pay school fees, because our education system is collapsing. They are there asking for money to pay hospital bills because NHIF is not working. No, wait.
This country is doing.
So all I'm saying is this, Maliba, and I know you'll agree with me. For me, what I am saying is that in addition to merit, there are people who live. And today, by the way, because I am here to remind us about selfless service, I'm not going to pinpoint other players, but I will say especially our National Police Service and our defense forces.
Fair enough.
These people leave their homes every day. They don't know whether they are going to come back dead or alive. They have no medical schemes. No, you will wait for me to say this, because this is my country and it's an extremely important issue. We expect them to stand there and guard us, and we are not making arrangements for them. Our priorities as a country are, I don't even know whether to say upside down. They have gone round 360. Hata zimeshikwa na ile tunaita kisunzi. They are dizzy. Our priorities are dizzy. Can we get serious, honestly? Let's deal with our remuneration paradigm and system. Let's also deal with the question of priorities in terms of development. You cannot have development if people are not going to school, and that is something that Mheshimiwa former governor has spoken about. Education is collapsing. Capitation has not been released as it should. The question of NHIF. Women are dying every day sitting on floors giving birth because they're waiting for NHIF. Our soldiers are dealing with bandits, and then they can't access medical because of the issue of NHIF. So nobody should come here and preach to us about politics. And my brother Maliba said something here, that in 2010, the people of Kenya voted for a constitution, and that if they had wanted for professors or they had wanted for certain things, the people of Kenya, we also, politics has a place in shaping the law, all right? And it is for that reason that even when we had orange and banana, when you have an objective, like we saw Punguza Mzigo, But if you don't have, for instance, the resources or various capacities to push a certain agenda, no matter how good it is, it will not see the light of day. So our Kenyans were not able. This constitution is a progressive constitution, but it doesn't have the input
a union
and
work on their salary. Because they should not be using this platform.
So, Maliba, just in conclusion, let us say that...
how are we paying our soldiers at home?
Please.
How are we paying...
Yes, because let's hear what you have to say. Because essentially, we want to go into, we need to recover resources. You're talking about mismatched priorities, misplaced priorities. But we also have loss of resources.
Absolutely. Anki, 3 things.
Yes.
Even as we talk about remuneration, what she has talked about the failure, what she has failed to say is the failure by this government to actually practice what they preach. Because all the issues that she has talked about are a failure by a government to govern. Now, we cannot talk about remuneration without talking about the person in charge, the institution in charge, Salaries and Remuneration Commission, as provided for in Article 230 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, that is mandated to advise both levels of government on remuneration of the state officers, and also is governed by certain principles. Principle number 1, Anki, they must ensure that they sustain the sustainability of the fiscal policy. They must do that. But also retain talent. He talked about MCAs who are earning very little. There are even other kind of state officers who are earning lesser than what MCAs are earning. Why? Because the government of the day, successive governments, not only these ones, have never put thought into how to remunerate better their people, their state officers. But let me take you back, Anki.
All right.
In putting people into office, there are 3 principles that we must comply with in the Constitution. Number 1, suitability. In selection, suitability, competency. And then the other one is personal integrity. And this takes me to your next point. We have seen this government organizing what we call wage bill conference. And they tell us how there are fake degrees in office. Thanks to the truthful man, Rigiji. He was bold enough at least and said, if we are to do away or lower the wage bill, then we must start with our government. And he told the president, his boss, that I don't know who is going to help you, but there are people in this government who have fake degrees. They conned their way into leadership and they have been earning salary fraudulently.
I think there was more documentation towards
now, what that means is we have actually been putting people into office, people who are not suitable, they're not competent, they're not capable, they're not qualified, they are not having personal integrity. That's why even this wage bill is so high. Lastly, let me tell you, we know for sure that this country is undergoing challenges of governance. We have seen it. She has talked about transition from NHF to SHIF. We have seen it. She has talked about women giving birth in the floor of the hospitals. We have seen it. Doctors are on strike. We have seen it. Today, the issue in North Rift, the banditry, is a big issue. We were told on media that, we will deal with this thing finally, and for the rest of our lives, we'll never see it. Today, it is still there. Is it a challenge of remuneration to the officers who are doing that job? Or is it a challenge of incompetency? Or is it a challenge of just laissez-faire, people who don't care? I want to submit today that for us as Kenyans, we know that this country can be better. We want to support our country to be better. We want to see it grow, but we must speak the truth. The truth of the matter is, for you to do better, to progress as a nation, as a country, as a leadership, first of all, the people you put into office must meet the 3 criteria or the principles of leadership. Must be suitable, must be competent, must be capable, and also must have personal integrity. Majority of the people in office today are not having personal integrity, they're not suitable, they're not competent. And therefore, we can speak until the chicken come home. But if we don't address that thing, then even this development they're talking about will not happen, because we have people who don't care.
All right, allow me, Javas.
I don't know whether you are hungry, but the issue is that most people go into political office to eat.
That is what you call the truth.
That is the thing that we need to curtail.
All right.
How do you read motive? Just you want to go to become a member of parliament, right? As a member of parliament, why do you want to go to parliament?
No, look, in fact...
Somebody elsewhere will sit somewhere and judge his motive.
Perhaps you could let him answer.
Well,
then I'm saying,
of course I'm not using
if you say
this
that
as
a majority,
platform.
which tool, and this is a scholar, which tool has he used to actually come up with the data to actually say that most of the people go to public office to loot?
The issue about, and we have had those cases, members of parliament...
Reference, please.
No, listen, Maliba. We need to be very keen and clear on issues of accountability.
Right.
That's why, for example, the issue of the wealth declaration is important, even when people are being vetted to hold public office. The question is this: after they are in office, do we vet them when they are exiting to know the kind of wealth they still retain or they have acquired in the time they were in office? The issue is this: Maliba, are you sitting on this table this morning to deny that we have got public servants in this country who are corrupt? Have we not had cases in court of public servants who have been indicted, charged, and in fact successfully prosecuted for purposes of on matters graft? And even members of parliament. Doing business with the government is not wrong. And you know me, I'm another truthful man. Beyond being a scholar, my international acclaim is just being about to be celebrated or acclaimed on matters of integrity. You know I'm quite clear and straightforward. When I serve Kenyans or even a constituency as a member of parliament, the thing that will drive me into office
asked 3 questions.
Is leadership.
My point was this: you cannot generalize. As a scholar, you cannot generalize and say that a majority of the people who are coming to politics, you know, the word majority, you are indicting the entire political class without data, and you are a scholar. That is my problem. I have no problem with your individual credentials and your certification. That's what I'm saying. Reference, please. The point is this.
No, because
he's getting into politics.
But
he's indicting everybody else.
What he is doing, and correct me if I'm wrong,
the point is this: you cannot generalize.
What he's doing, he has looked at the research
on this particular
platform.
area, this is an evidence-based platform. And only in God do we trust. Everybody else must bring data. You cannot generalize and get away with that. I am questioning his data. No, where is the research? Who are the majority? I am saying we should not allow sweeping statements saying majority. Using what tool? Which research? Which reference? I am questioning the statistics on this. Did I say any majority? Did I say any numbers? Was I anywhere hesitating? I am saying, I'm talking about quantitative and qualitative. Once you get quantitative, please put figures to name.
Yes.
No, the show will actually proceed. And it's running.
Let us have some order on the show this morning.
I mean, we cannot allow sweeping statements.
Not sweeping statements, and in fact, he was
actually doing exactly
I have asked a reference when you say a majority. It's a simple question. Which research?
Maliba, either you're a town crier or in your past life you're a town crier.
No, that is poetry. That is petty. I asked a question. When you say a majority,
of course I know you are gifted.
Which number?
You are
which numbers?
Which
numbers? Which reference? He said a majority.
Thank you very much.
That is a sweeping statement.
Let me echo that for you. The concern on the table,
according to whose research?
All right, is that most politicians go into power to loot, to steal. That was your statement. Substantiate it. Is the question on the table?
Anki, unless Maliba is a foreigner in this country, unless he is a guest in Jerusalem,
and source of data.
Maliba, look here.
We are demoralizing.
Maliba beyond.
The reason why we are demoralizing anyone who wants to get into politics.
Even as we are speaking, and I want to come back with Okang on this matter, members of parliament are up in arms over the 8 billion shillings faulty, they call it faulty, Bunge Tower offices, but did not start construction yesterday. Now we're looking at when Speaker Kenneth Marende approached President Mwai Kibaki in 2009 for a new office block for of course, a soon-to-be expanded parliament. His plan was to put up a Bunge Tower at a cost of 5 billion shillings. The question is coming on a shoot of about 9 billion shillings. Let's hear the voice of Honorable Cherargei on this matter. And we can weigh in as we conclude. If number one, it's a priority, do we need that Bunge block at this point in time? Where is the money? Some questions are coming up around that. And what's the way forward? Let's listen in.
Ukiona pesa ambayo imetumika mwaka wa 2010 ilitakana kutumia bilioni 5 9, lakini kwa sasa tunapoongea hiyo building imeenda mpaka imekuwa bilioni 9.6, zaidi ya bilioni 6 juu. Ukiona bunge ama jengo la Central Bank Pension Towers ambayo iko tu mkabala na hilo jengo ni bilioni 2.4. Ikiwa hiyo bilioni 6 imeongezwa juu, tunaweza jenga majengo makaribu 4 ama 3 kwa hiyo pesa ya bilioni 2.5. Na hata hiyo nyumba ama hilo ofisi za bunge, za majengo ya maofisi ya Bunge Towers ijakamilika. Kwanza unasikia kuna wabunge ambao wamepewa ofisi zingine ambazo hazina dirisha, na wabunge wanaweza kushikwa na magonjwa kama jaundice ama kwashako, ambaye wakirudi huko mashinani sura zitakuwa zimebadilika na wanaweza kosa kura.
Just straight to the panelists, Okango, on this matter.
Even as we aspire to be in Parliament, God willing, I'm not sure about Mboshe, but I know myself and Javas and Arnold, God willing, will be there. I actually have listened to Senator Chirarge.
Yes.
Other than the complaint he is making that, some of those offices don't have even ventilation and would, make some of their leaders to suffer from kwashako and, risk being re-elected, because they'd be looking emaciated. I have seen, comments from other leaders, and the Speaker, Wetangula, threatened that they would appear before what is called Powers and Privileges Committee for not allowing them to transition into the new building. I don't know how that will look like. In fact, he called it a rejectionist theory or philosopher. That is Speaker Wetangula for you. But, look, in 2009, this constitution that we have today, Anki, is a very good constitution. In fact, it's very progressive. The reason why former Speaker Marende went to President Kibaki, may God put his soul, may his soul rest in eternal peace, was because of the expansion of Parliament.
All right.
We moved into 349 members in the National Assembly and 67 in the Senate. And that means the number was huge. So they were not able to be accommodated in the current offices. So they had to look for extra space. And it was important and necessary that they have, a building that can accommodate them. But the building started from 5.89 billion, 2009, moved to 7.1 billion. Now we are being told to 9.6 billion. Moving targets, according to Chirarge. However, where is the value for money? The Constitution of Kenya, under what is called principle of public finance, tells us that the public money must be used in a lawful and efficient manner. The builders or the proprietors or whoever is in charge of that building must show value for money, must show that the public money that has been used to build that Bunge Towers was used prudently. The members of Parliament are concerned that even though they call it swanky offices and you want us to move there, but look, the money that has been used here does not show value for money. And that's why Chirarge says one or some of those offices do not have, enough ventilation. But listen, Anki, I think it is a good plan to have an office that can accommodate members of Parliament, to have a place they can call office. Because I'm sure the government spends a lot of money to rent offices for members of Parliament. Why not own yours so that you save money? We are talking about wage bill. Maybe some of the money that contributes to the big wage bill, ballooning wage bill, is going into paying these offices. So members of Parliament should have their office. And lastly, Speaker Wetangula must come out and explain to the members of Parliament the benefits of moving into their new offices. He must demonstrate to them that it is important that they occupy an office that is considerable, an office that is good for occupation, without pushing them into an office that they feel is not good for them, and also an office that has been constructed using public money, and therefore they don't see the need. I want to submit today that I am in agreement with the members of parliament who are questioning, not to go, but questioning how that money has moved from 5 billion to 9 billion, and also questioning the workmanship and the value for money in that construction.
All right, because we're winding up, I just want to bring it to the attention of the viewer. This was built by China Jiangxi, all right, international company. All right, so you asked who built it and all those questions, but also a voice of Member of Parliament, Nyaribari Chache, Zahir Janda, who has called for investigations over the expenditure on the project, describing Bunge Tower as substandard. Let me hear from you, Njoke, together with your closing remarks.
Yeah, you know, Anki, these issues of, we know there's corruption and we know there's stealing and we know there's looting.
And what are we doing about it?
And unfortunately, you know, this is not my saying, but the English people say that the fish rots from the head. So the thing is this, when we see an issue such as this, you can therefore understand why Kenyans are questioning the affordable housing arrangement. This is just but one building. And so when they say that the affordable housing arrangement is a land grabbing scheme or it's looking like a looting scheme, you have to give it to them. They seem to have a good foundation in terms of that argument. So we need to call for accountability. The problem then that I see though is these issues of commissions of inquiries every time, because they cost us money as well. I mean, each one of us here is a leader.
Are they
so
necessary?
We need to come up with a more sustainable solution to dealing with these problems. It can't be that people steal, we form a commission, the report is never out, and even when it's out, the people who end up being charged are the small fish. It rots somewhere from the head. And I'll also say this, as we are dealing with that Bunge Towers conversation, let's have also a conversation on the question of this affordable housing scheme. They are sisters in terms of projects, looting projects, and in terms of how, if that one cannot be accounted for, how sure are we that that affordable housing scheme will be properly accounted for? Let's deal with those small problems before we go to major projects, my friend. You know, that is why I even gave the example of police officers and their accommodation. Affordable housing, we have many millions of Kenyans, you know, so let's start by having a small project and making sure that we house our police officers, and then we can say, we have done this so well, now we have confidence to go into a broader project. We are failing there. There's already a red flag here. Let's not proceed until we address these fundamental issues. People who offer, you said, will I get another chance to say something?
No, you will not.
Okay, so as I'm wrapping up, I'll say this. Today, the reminder of the life of June Moi, the reminder of the fallen heroes of yesterday.
Yes.
We condole with their families, and I'd just like to use that and say, please, let us celebrate people who are selflessly serving this country. Our police service, our defense forces, their welfare must be looked into, even as we are looking at other priorities, and also the question of, you know, they also have children, so education must be looked at. NHIF must be looked at.
Right.
Let the government do the right thing. Selfless service is the bottom line for today.
Selfless service. Let's hear your closing remarks, Maliba.
My closing remarks will just be around Bunge Towers.
Yeah, and we need to hear your thoughts on that as well.
Number one, MPs should stop courting attention by all means. They should go to that new office. Because we, the people out here, we don't like the hospitals built to us sometimes when we go there. We don't stand outside hospitals and choose that I cannot get into this particular facility, it's not built in the way I like. They should go in there because the parliament we have...
Have you gone in there, Maliba? Have you seen the building?
That's what I'm telling you.
All right. You've said
there is no mad person in this country who can tell an MP to go into a filthy place. And no other person other than the speaker himself, who is a long-serving member of parliament, can actually dare do that. So I love to start from this particular point, that MPs should stop unnecessary drama and go into that new building, because some of them we know do not want to go into that new building because they don't want to lose the money they are given to rent offices elsewhere. They are just resisting change because some of them are so comfortable at KICC, others have got offices elsewhere. But be that as it is, if there is a problem with oversight, these are people we expect to oversight a 4 trillion budget. They have not been able to oversight a project of 5 billion shillings that concerns them directly. Are we safe then? We cannot be safe with the people who are unable to oversight a 5 billion, 7 billion project, yet they are supposed to oversight a 4 trillion for the rest of a 4 trillion budget for the rest of us. The other thing is this: the project has actually taken long. There have been project variations. Right. So when the people who are supposed to be actually doing informed contribution to national conversation, they build an underpass from Bunge building down there. You remember that Parliament Road was actually closed for some time. That was not initially there. They built an underpass down there. They are building new roads there. They've continuously made reviews. So if they have been going to that project, looking at it and continuously making adjustments, were those adjustments supposed to be worked on by air or some magic? You know, when you do variations, it actually reflects there. Finally.
Yes, finally.
You know, there's bias. There's this thing we call bias. When MPs sit down and they are choosing that this particular building is not suitable for them, this particular bias from where they are coming from, at what time do they sit down and decide that there is a level of service delivery that is not befitting of the people of Kenya who are their bosses? Who are the people?
I would say this, that drama festivals have just ended.
Yes.
I did not see an item from Bunge, because what we are seeing is actually drama. They should have featured an item. When it comes to matters projects, there's something called social audit. That what were the measurements for a project by the architects and what has been finished? Does it comply? All these things, the issue is colossal amounts being used by, through public funds are things that should be accounted for. But the issue of variation from 5 billion shillings to 9-point-something billion, or even the expressway, I think Kenyans must frown at this kind of issues. For our fallen soldiers, I think I would say that now that they've crossed from the isthmus, from this tumultuous one to the still one, we pray for their souls, we pray for their spouses, and especially their families.
Thank you very much, Javas Bigambo, who is a lawyer and governance expert, Maliba Arnold, a strategic communication advisor, UDA, Frederick Okango, Secretary of Political Affairs, Azimio, and finally, Harriet Njoki, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. My name is Anki Dorisombat. Remember, the president has declared 3 days starting today for the mourning of and in honor of the late General Ogola and 9 others who perished in the crash. That was yesterday. So we continue to give you updates on the same. Remember to do your level best in appreciating the lives of the fallen soldiers. Be encouraging to building a country that even the next generation will be proud of after you exit. My name is Anki Dorisombat. Justice be our shield and defender. May we dwell in unity, peace, and liberty. Plenty be found within our borders. Have a good day.